All right, let's get back to work. Get back to work. And we've been back to work. So this is a little crude, but what I've got here is that these are what I call the nut bars, and they came out okay. I mean, I could have made them better, but I cut them with the torch because they're so thick. But essentially, we don't really need a lot because these are designed to be bolt everything together, and they are reusable. But most likely, we're never going to take these out again. So I made some captive nut cages. And they're slotted, and you can see that's where it goes. And this is with the firewall, which is just chucked up in this vise for now. As I'm tweaking the firewall, you can see I'm getting it ready to be installed, and it's essentially fit into place. And so what's going to happen now is we're going to be taking these nut bars and we're going to slide this in there, and I just have a little bit more fitting to do. That one's a little tight, so I got to bend it in. We'll take this one here, which has already been fit. And as you see, this one slides right in. So the idea of this is that these nuts can move around because there is a little bit of play. So this all can move in here, and the cage holds it in place. It can't fall out. So on this one's fit, so I'm going to fit the other one, and then I'm going to weld them into place. And I'll give you the next shot of that. Oh, let's see. Let's just having a problem. On focus. Shiny objects don't like to focus. Okay, so we welded the tabs together, and now I'm going to insert it into here, and we're going to weld it. Let's see what happens. Let's back this out. Let's see if it focuses. And we're back with the firewall mod. So I'm almost done. I got one more piece to do, but I'm just looking at the cage. So here's the cage installed, and we spot welded it here and here on both sides. And the idea of it is so that you have this movement up and down both ways, and it can go through the travel. I did it over on this side, and this might have to be adjusted or cut off, but you can move it around. And this I may have to adjust, but when I go to fit it in, I'll know, and if I have to cut that part of the cage off and modify it a little bit, I'll just dress it, tuck it in, make it follow that line, and we'll just cut it there, bend that in, and make sure I don't have any issues, and then just weld it closed again. This one was a bit bigger, so, and it's spot welded in both ways, and this is almost ready to install. The next thing to take a look at is this. I need to retrieve this from the old firewall, what was left of it as I was removing it, and so we're about ready to go with that. That's next up. Okay, camera's rolling. The digital pieces of the camera are recording, and we're back with the firewall, and this is it, basically cleaned up. The bracket here, this is the bracket I took out of the old firewall, and we're good to go. That's on there. I did a little cleaning up, some adjustments. Again, that's the cages, that's the nut cage. You can see the nut living in there, and on the other side tweaked it for mounting. I had to make adjustments. It's a little different. I don't know why. They seem to have done something to it. They changed the design slightly from the original. So this is the bracket that goes to underneath the bonnet, underneath the tire, and this is all part of part of where the H connector goes. So that's all on there. It's been located, it's been tested several times, and I think this is the last time, and that's why I'm cleaning it up right now for install. So now I'm going to move over to the car. We're over to the VW, and the next step you'll see is this huge hole will be closed in. So I got a little bit of cleaning to do and some tweaking on these bottom rails here. I got some marks, and you're going to see it in place. And this is what basically holds the effing car together. So pretty crazy. Let's get that done. It's getting late, Friday night, but it's warm. So we're getting cold weather coming in, so hopefully I can get some more done. And that's another view of where the connectors are going to go. It's definitely getting there. It's getting really crazy. Alright, off we go. Arr, mateys, welcome back to the Beetle Show. Up on deck today is the latest installation. So what we got is finishing up on the welding of the firewall. And let's take a look and see what we got going on here. So, almost have the firewall installed. And, you know, some of the welds are okay, some of them aren't that great. This is some good welds over here, and I've got the same on that side. But it was spot welded in, so even shitty stitch welding or bead welding like that isn't so bad. And I've got some blow-through areas up here, so a little bit more welding, a little bit more patching. And in this is the Napoleon hat, okay? And you can see the shape, right? So this is where the bolts are, the nuts are in here, and the captive cages, and the lower frame, which you don't see yet because I cut it out, and this piece gets welded onto this tunnel. So I will slip this on, move it out of the way, and then weld on the H-frame, which I don't have here at the moment for illustration. Right, blimey. And so then you could see a piece of it sticking out here, and this is where the bolt holes go. So this is where things are going to start lining up and being bolted together. And so you see over here, this was patched by somebody. Really crappy job. Bondo, it looks like furnace cement. This guy hacked it. But he did the best he could. So I'm going to weld over here and cover this and do a few other things. And then we'll look at this side here. And let's turn that on here. See, this whole fender here is going to get replaced because it's just gacked. Huge holes here you can put your head in. Serious stuff over there. A lot of rot. Let's come over here and take a look. So these holes here, this is the Napoleon hat. So I've basically just laid it on there just to see how it fits. And you can see this goes up into this pocket here, the way the shape is. And they call it a Napoleon hat for obvious reasons. This is where the brake booster goes. This is all rotted out. This was all gone. So little by little I'm getting it back in. And the frame head's going to weld to this tunnel. And then that lays on top and gets welded in. And it has to be positioned. So again, you got, it bolts up through here, and the frame head, it's called an H-frame, it bolts up through this, all together, sandwiches in, and then bolts to the front fender as well, the two front fenders. So I've got some cleanup work, a little bit more welding along this seam, try to patch that in, close that up. This side will have to be done when I put the fender in. But I could work the rest of it now. Here's the bracket. I have it temporarily bolted in so I can position the header. We got some more welds up in there. Some more stuff in there. Not too bad. It looks very good. There's going to be some bracing that I have to make from here to here. So I got to look at that. I got to dig out my pictures and figure out how that goes. So that's got to get done. So and a couple more stuff, even more things to do. Some more stuff to fabricate. And that's it for now. So I'm going to take it to the next level and figure out how the hell I'm going to do the rest of it. I'm not really sure at this point. This can't be spotted on yet. The only way to put this on is to shove it back here, out of the way, and then mount the frame head to these bolts, line it up to this somehow, trim and match, and tack weld it, then bring it down, spread the sandwich apart, weld the whole thing together, and then grind and then pull this over it and weld that on and spot, have to spot it on there somehow. Which means I'm going to have to, this sandwich here, if you're wondering why, wondering what this piece of wood is for, there, and over there, it's the only way I can figure out right now to push apart the lower pan and the main tube, to spread that apart so I can have room for the installation and welding. So I have to remove that and then close the sandwich back up to align everything and tack it together. So back to work. This is really, really hard. Can't believe what I got myself into, but if I don't do this, the car is not going to be drivable. This is what they call the death rattle, and it's because this stuff rots out, gets loose, and the entire front sub-chassis wobbles really bad. Not to mention with all the rot, you don't just have wobbling, but oh crap, something was going to fall off, and if he got hit over here in these areas, there wasn't even anything to protect him because it's just tape and rust. And I found somebody put some type of foil back tape and then put stuffed goop over it. Just absolute nightmare. Alright, I'm going to keep moving. Stay tuned for the next edition. Right. Welcome back to This is Somebody's Volkswagen in My Garage, and that's the next episode of This is Somebody's Volkswagen in My Garage. So here we are. I'm back at the firewall again, and I'm going to go over the last few things for this project. And I'm just going to swing around here. Righto. Holy fucking Jesus. I'm getting a phone call. Right, we're back with another edition of Whose Volkswagen Is This Anyway? Righto, let's get started. So here I am back with the firewall project, and this is probably another look at it, and probably one of the last actual looks at the firewall itself. So I'm going to just swing around here, and I'm just going to go in. I'm going to go in for a little bit of a close-up shot. You really can't see everything, but I got some decent welds down here at the bottom, some at the top. It's, you know, it was actually spot welded in, so trying to run a bead is damn near impossible. This is new material against old material, and that is very difficult to do. So, but here I am, and I've got some pretty serious shit going on here. This is going to get even harder, so let me move it around this way. So here I tied it in over here in the corner. I had to cut these slots into the fender in order to get the thing in, and I'm going to close this back up. I'm going to grind that next and go underneath and turn off this light here. All the Beetle is not. And it's getting better, but it's not in good shape. Let's come down to this. And I can see, I'll show you a few areas that I'm working on. So this is, I fixed this area up and welded all this up here. This is all very well tied in, very tight. I've got a little area to patch here, and then I'm good. And going all the way over to the right side, where I'm going to have to do the quarter panel on this side next, because I don't have any way of tying it in to the quarter panel, to the front rails, or with the outer rails, I would say. And this is the Napoleon hat. Alright, I just placed that in there, and it looks like a Napoleon hat. Looks like Napoleon's hat. And that goes underneath this part here, and it gets bolted in underneath here through these holes, and the floorboards go up, and then the frame rail, which is not here, which will come later. The frame head, which is called the H-frame. So I added some gussets in here. Just, I reinforced this whole area. It's all tied in very good. That's not going anywhere, and I want to do the same thing. It needs a little cleanup, a little grinding and a little cleanup. I'm going to do the same thing on the driver's side. And then the floor pan's going to be tied in. So my next step here is to complete this area here, so that it's not looking like that. It's strong right now, but it needs to be closed up. So that'll add a little bit of strength, but really it's more just to close it up so that the floor pan has a tight seal in that area. You don't want that having a hole. So that's what's up next, and then I'll clean up some of these welds. This bracket that I made here is similar to the one that existed originally, and it's just my little design. And it was hard to weld because it's just the material is, the new stuff welds great. To the old stuff, much harder. There is rust. So I'm not doing just spot welds. I figure I'll just run beads. Whichever ones come out good, great. If there's enough of the good ones where I feel it's mounted well, excellent. Ones that really don't look too good, well, as long as the piece is strong that's on there, nobody's going to see any of this. But when I get to the quarter panel, which is next, this is going to be something that's really difficult, because this is going to have an aesthetic a purpose. All this rot up here is going to be basically removed when I put the new quarter on. But all this horror down here is structural. So in areas where it's structural, the welds don't have to be as pretty, they have to be solid. In the areas up here where it is aesthetic, those welds are going to have to be pristine, and they'll have to be ground. Ground and redone until everything is perfect. So, but I'll be working to clean the material, and I'll be working in position instead of up underneath to crappy metal. So that's it for now, and next time I do a little video, see this, a lot of this horror moved out. I'll grab one last area here. I had to do a lot of cleanup work in here, and it's just basic patchwork. Burn-throughs, a little bit of rot and burn-throughs, and more tie-ins to the upper part of the firewall what it meets with, which this is like the trunk pan. You know, this is, but it's the front of the car, so it's an entire integral firewall, and this is where the gas tank sits. So I didn't want any holes, because the fuel level leaked. It needs to go out to the ground and not back into the cabin. So that had to be not just structurally good, but I couldn't have any holes that were leak back in. And this will all be covered over with primer and sealer, like a gasket or sealant, and then painted. So that's almost it. It's getting there. Next step is really the pain in the ass of doing the fender. All right, so I'm gonna back out.